So is Kamala doing okay?
Nope. She's down, Joe.
It's just this idea that if they ramp up the heat, then something is going to happen, and that something will be good for them.
Trump is killing us at the polls, so yes, we're going to lose Joe.
Damn it. Wait. What if I come back to run again?
As candidate?
Yeah.
They don't know what it is. They just know the more that you torch a Tesla dealership, the more you scratch a Tesla's car, the more you run a guy off the road with a Tesla, the more you say Donald Trump is a fascist, a Nazi, the more that you say that he wants to deport black people, something will happen, and that something will be in their favor.
What if the chaos is the plan? What if the endless indictments, the media smears, the border collapse, and the glorification of criminals aren't signs of a broken system, but the symptoms of a new strategy?
I mean, think about it for a minute. They raided his home, and they took away 13,000 documents, and they found 102.007%.
The FBI has raided former President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago.
And they even had to put labels they brought with them, the FBI did.
President Trump issued a statement on the raid saying this: "These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided, and occupied by a large group of FBI agents."
And then they tried to take him off the ballot. They impeached him twice. They tried him as a private citizen. They had 4 prosecutors, state, local, and federal, to go after him. We have watched for the last 5 years a corruption of the American judicial system by 4 prosecutors. Fannie Willis in Georgia, who was trying to magnify a phone call that Donald Trump made to the registrars into some type of RICO, corruptive act, and it was not. And that case has been dropped.
Georgia Appeals Court has just stripped Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis from the 2020 election interference case against Donald Trump.
We saw Alvin Bragg in Manhattan try to bootstrap a federal offense that the federal prosecutors did not want to prosecute.
Alvin Bragg effectively is prosecuting Donald Trump for making hush money payments, allegedly, to Stormy Daniels, and then paying Michael Cohen in a means that Alvin Bragg thinks is falsifying business record.
Donald J. Trump is guilty of 34 counts of falsifying business records to conceal a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election.
You have Alvin Bragg, a Manhattan DA who was elected on the promise of going after Donald Trump. For what crime? We had no idea. Just the idea that they had to go after Donald Trump. This is a politician keeping his campaign promise. That is a bastardization of our legal system.
We saw Jack Smith with the records, and that was asymmetrical because at the same time they were investigating Joe Biden for essentially the same crime and let him off. And then we had Letitia James on the real estate deal, which she created kind of new laws that had never existed before on minor details about forms on real estate applications, about a loan to the Deutsche Bank that they were happy.
I am going to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and challenge Donald Trump. And each and every time he issues an illegal executive order, I am going to stand up to him because he represents to me sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity.
And all of that failed. And now he's president, and they've gone into, people on the right made fun of Biden all the time, and they said, he doesn't know where he is. They probably amplified that because the left said he's fit as a fiddle. Joe Scarborough said, I've never seen him. I knew Joe Biden. I've never seen him more cognizant.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh my gosh, he's the president of the United States.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
And I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
Joe Biden has vision. He has knowledge. He has a strategic thinker.
The president is focused. He's detail-oriented. He's always thinking about the big picture.
But they didn't do this stuff, threatening and threatening. And I don't know where it's going to end, but it's getting really scary. I'm not scared because I'm 71, but the climate that they're creating is unacceptable. And I guess it's designed to tell the independent voter or the Romney Republican, we're divided and we're crazy, and you can stop all this by stopping this MAGA stuff, and stop the Doge, and stop the terror, stop all this, and then we'll just call him a Nazi, and then when he was out of office, we'll say he was a good guy, and we'll call the next Republican. What I do is I look at the news articles, and they're all critical, and then I look at the group that writes them, and I click on the names, and I look at them, and I see that most of them are from the other persuasion, the liberal progressive persuasion. So you would get this impression from the media that he's in dire straits, everything's falling apart. But there's two things going on. The public is reacting to things that they voted for and they want. And number two, we're not getting a balanced judgment. I mean, this same media told us that we were not in a recession with Joe Biden, even though he had 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. They now they're saying a recession is inevitable. But in early April and then the March inflation rate shows that inflation is not going up. Oil's going down. Job creation was more in March than anybody had expected by about almost 100,000 jobs. And it looks like they're going to get a budget bill through. They're making some progress on Doge, and it's kind of good that it's not in the headlines every day now, because they're just quietly cutting things that needed to be cutting. I don't know what you'd say about the border. I think the worst thing that Biden did, or any other president in my lifetime did, was welcome 12 million people in here and deliberately broke federal immigration law by not enforcing it. And that's over with. And we were told day after day by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, you have to have comprehensive immigration reform. You don't. You just needed somebody to enforce the existing legislation. And it stopped. 98%.
The number of illegal border crossers released into the United States is down, listen to this please, 99.999%.
It was just the most radical change in our lifetime to see a border that had 10,000 people a day have almost nobody.
3 people got in. 3. And I got angry as hell at Tom Homan. How did you allow 3, Tom? I called up Christy. Christy Noem's doing a great job, Tom Homan. I said, how did you allow 3 people?
With Houthis, they were saying, this is unfair. Donald Trump just hit us again, and we hadn't done anything this time. I mean, for 4 years, they said the Red Sea is ours, and they killed people. They sunk ships. They took the entire world's commerce and rerouted around the Suez. All of a sudden, Iran is, well, we would like to talk, and all of a sudden, Hezbollah, I don't know, and where is Assad? He's disappeared, and I can see Putin, Trump goes back and forth. If he thinks Zelensky doesn't want to, he says, start talking. If Putin doesn't, he says, we have other things to do to you, Vladimir, like a secondary boycott of oil. The world is not falling apart here or abroad, as the media says. And the people know that. And so that's why they're voicing a sense of confidence. And that's why the Democratic Party is in this turmoil. They don't know how to handle it. They always do that. And everybody, when I say they, what I'm talking about is the history of communism and this idea of socialism and radical redistribution. It's all predicated on the idea that we are more moral. And to create this heaven on earth, we're entitled to have methodologies that are justified by our noble and superior ends. And those means, any means necessary. That's not important. The end result is important. We'll get you there. Just put up with us. That's their idea.
The rhetoric is no longer political. It's existential. So ask yourself, what happens when people feel they have no voice left? What happens when reason is replaced with rage? What happens when the truth becomes whatever they say it is? And most importantly, what will you do when it knocks on your door?